Have you ever laid in bed at night, desperately trying to fall asleep, but your mind just won't stop racing? Thoughts about unfinished tasks, awkward conversations, financial worries, or a future you can't predict, swirling endlessly like a storm inside your head? Yeah, you're not alone. In today's fast-paced world, our minds are overloaded. We consume too much information, juggle too many responsibilities, and rarely give ourselves time to just be. As a result, we become anxious, restless, and trapped in our own thoughts. But what if I told you that you could train your mind to be calm, that you don't need to escape to a mountain or go on a silent retreat, but instead apply simple, timeless practices rooted in one of the oldest philosophies on earth, Stoicism? Today, I'm going to share 16 powerful but simple Stoic strategies that will help you detox your mind, stop overthinking, and finally feel peace within yourself, even in the middle of chaos. These aren't complicated rituals or spiritual fluff. They're practical, actionable habits you can start using today. So if you've ever felt like your brain just won't shut up, stick around, because this might be the beginning of the clarity and calm you've been looking for. Strategy 1. Practice positive affirmations. Let's kick things off with something incredibly simple, but surprisingly powerful. Positive affirmations. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Aren't affirmations just cheesy quotes people tape to their mirrors? But hear me out. What we tell ourselves over and over again shapes the lens through which we see the world. If your internal dialogue is filled with negativity, "I'm not good enough, I'll never figure this out," then your mind will begin to treat those thoughts like facts. But Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "A large part of happiness depends on our disposition, not our circumstances." That means the way we speak to ourselves matters more than we think. Here's a simple example. You wake up already dreading the day. The first thought in your mind is, "This is going to be awful." What kind of energy do you think that brings to everything you do? Now imagine waking up and saying instead, "Today is a new chance to grow and learn." Same day, same responsibilities, different mindset, and that changes everything. Positive affirmations help rewire your thinking. They reduce anxiety, interrupt negative thought loops, and refocus your mind on possibility instead of fear. Want to try it? Start by identifying one area in your life where you feel stuck or insecure. Let's say you constantly doubt your ability at work. Your affirmation could be, "I am capable. I learn quickly. I trust myself." Write it down. Repeat it every morning, especially when doubt creeps in. This isn't magic, it's mental conditioning. And when you do it consistently, just like training a muscle, your mind starts to believe you. So here's your challenge. Choose one positive affirmation, starting today. Say it like you mean it, and watch your mindset begin to shift. Ready to speak to yourself with a little more kindness? Let's move on to the next strategy. Strategy 2. Simplify your life. Now let's talk about something that sounds obvious, but is way more powerful than it seems. Simplifying your life. In today's world, complexity is everywhere. We have cluttered homes, overloaded schedules, dozens of browser tabs open in our computers and in our minds. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is the mind that makes us rich or poor, happy or miserable." And when our lives are filled with too much, too many possessions, too many commitments, too many distractions, our minds get overwhelmed. We feel stressed, tired, and mentally foggy. Here's a quick example. Think about your home. How many things do you own that you never use, but still take up space? Every extra object you see is one more signal your brain has to process. And it's not just physical clutter, it's emotional and mental clutter too. Like saying yes to every invitation, or keeping 47 to-do lists in your head, or trying to fix problems that aren't even yours. Simplifying doesn't mean giving everything up. It means making space for what truly matters. So how do you start? Begin with something small and visible. Maybe your desk. Clear it out, keep only what inspires clarity and focus. Then look at your calendar. Are there commitments you can cancel or delegate? Create white space, not just on paper, but in your day. And finally, practice simplifying your thoughts. Use mindfulness to notice when your mind is spiraling and gently bring it back to the present moment. Because the truth is, the less noise we allow in, the more peace we find. So here's your challenge. Declutter one area of your life this week. It could be your closet, your phone, or even your inner dialogue. Simplify one part of your world and feel your mind start to breathe again. Ready for strategy 3. Limit the information you consume. All right, let's get real for a second. How often do you find yourself scrolling, not because you want to, but because your fingers just do it? News feeds, social media, endless videos, notifications, it never stops. We're drowning in information and our minds can barely keep up. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." And I'd add, the quality of your thoughts depends on the quality of your inputs. Think about it. If your mind is constantly bombarded with noise, fear-driven headlines, people arguing in comment sections, unrealistic lifestyles, how do you expect to feel peaceful, focused, or grounded? Here's an example. You wake up, and the first thing you do is check your phone. You see bad news, a braggy Instagram post, and a dozen work emails before you even brush your teeth. No wonder your brain's in panic mode by 9 a.m. The Stoics teach us to protect our inner world, and that starts by choosing what we allow in. So how can you start limiting information? First, be intentional. Choose just a few trusted sources for news or learning. Quality over quantity. Second, create tech boundaries. Decide when and where you use your phone. Maybe no screens before breakfast or no social media after 9 p.m. And third, pay attention to how content makes you feel. If it leaves you anxious, angry, or empty, maybe it's time to unfollow, unsubscribe, or disconnect. You don't have to absorb everything. In fact, your brain will thank you if you don't. So this week, try one digital detox habit and notice what happens when your mind has space again. Let's move on to strategy 4. Move your body. Exercise regularly. Let's talk about something super simple, but often underestimated: movement. Exercise. Just getting your body going. Now I know, we usually think of exercise as something we do to lose weight, get stronger, or stay healthy, but from a Stoic perspective, exercise is also a mental practice. Seneca once said, "The mind that is anxious about the future is miserable." And what better way to quiet that anxious mind than to get out of your head and into your body? Here's the thing. When you move, whether it's a run, a walk, some stretching, or dancing in your kitchen, your body releases endorphins. These natural chemicals make you feel good, clearer, calmer. You're not just working your muscles, you're scrubbing your mind. Let me paint you a picture. You've had a long day, your brain's spinning with a million thoughts, emails, deadlines, that awkward thing you said earlier. You step outside, the air is cool, you walk, breathe, and little by little, the noise fades. That's not just physical, that's medicine for the soul. You don't need a gym membership or a perfect routine, you just need to start. Even 15 minutes a day can change the tone of your entire mind. And the Stoics knew this. The body and the mind are connected. A strong, active body supports a focused, resilient mind. So here's your challenge. Move your body on purpose today. Not because you should, but because you deserve to feel lighter. Go for a walk, stretch during a break, put on music and move however feels good. Because sometimes the fastest way to calm your thoughts is through your feet. Let's move into strategy 5, practice daily meditation. Let's slow things down for a moment because this next strategy isn't about doing more, it's about being still. Meditation. Now, before you roll your eyes or think that's not for me, hear me out. Meditation doesn't require a guru, candles, or sitting cross-legged on a mountain. It's simply the practice of noticing your thoughts without getting dragged into them. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, were masters of this. They believed that by observing the mind, we can master it. And meditation is the training ground for that mastery. So what does it actually look like? Imagine this. You sit down in a quiet corner. You close your eyes. You breathe slowly, gently. Thoughts begin to pop up. What should I make for dinner? Did I reply to that message? Oh no, that awkward moment from last week. But instead of chasing those thoughts, you simply notice them. And then you bring your focus back to your breath, to this moment. That's meditation. You're not trying to stop thinking. You're practicing the art of not attaching to every thought that passes by. Why does this matter? Because most of our stress comes from being tangled in thoughts we didn't choose. Meditation helps you step back, create space, and in that space, peace grows. Start small, 2 minutes, eyes closed. Focus on your breath. That's it. You don't have to be good at it. You just have to show up. Over time, it gets easier. And suddenly, you find yourself a little calmer, even when life gets noisy. So here's your challenge. Try meditating today, just a few minutes. Give your mind the break it deserves. All right, when you're ready, let's move on to strategy 6. Set clear boundaries. Let's talk about something that sounds simple, but can absolutely transform your mental peace. Setting boundaries. You see, one of the biggest reasons we feel mentally exhausted, even without doing much, is because our time and energy are constantly being pulled in every direction. Work asks for more, family needs something, a friend texts with just one quick favor, and suddenly you've said yes to everyone except yourself. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, said, "No one can harm you unless you allow it." And that includes the harm of burnout, resentment, and inner chaos that comes from never saying no. Let me give you a quick example. You've had a long day. You're finally home, ready to rest. Then your coworker messages, "Can you hop on one last call?" Part of you wants to help, but the truth is, you're drained. Saying yes in that moment might seem helpful, but over time, it chips away at your well-being. Setting boundaries isn't about being rude, it's about being honest with others and with yourself. It could sound like, "I'd love to help, but I need to recharge tonight." Or, "I can't commit to that right now, but thank you for thinking of me." When you do this, you're not being selfish. You're being responsible for your energy, your time, and your peace. And here's the magic. The clearer your boundaries, the calmer your mind. So here's your challenge. This week, notice where your time or energy is leaking. Practice saying no, kindly but firmly, at least once. You'll be surprised at how freeing it feels. Because peace doesn't come from doing more. It comes from protecting what matters. Let's move on to strategy 7. Surround yourself with positive people. Let's talk about your environment, not your physical space, but your social space. Who you spend time with matters a lot. Seneca, one of the great Stoic minds, once said, "The most powerful person is the one who has control over themselves." But here's the thing. It's really hard to stay grounded when you're constantly surrounded by people who drain your energy. You know the type. That friend who always complains. The coworker who finds a problem in every solution. The family member who turns every conversation into drama. Now, don't get me wrong, we all go through tough times. But when your circle is consistently negative, it's like carrying emotional weights every single day. On the flip side, think about someone who uplifts you. Maybe it's that one friend who sees the good in things, even when life gets messy. Someone who listens without judgment, who inspires you just by being themselves. Spending time with people like that, it's like giving your mind a deep breath. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control. And while we can't always choose our coworkers or relatives, we can choose how much time and energy we invest. So here's a practical step. This week, take inventory of your relationships. Who energizes you? Who drains you? Then, without guilt, make a small shift. Spend a little more time with someone who brings out your best, and a little less with those who don't. You don't have to cut anyone off. Just start being intentional, because the people around you shape your mindset more than you think. Choose wisely. Protect your peace. Ready for strategy 8, accept impermanence. Let's be honest, one of the hardest things for the human mind is accepting that nothing lasts forever. But this next strategy, straight from the heart of Stoic philosophy, is about embracing a truth we all face: impermanence. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic thinker, once wrote, "Observe how many changes take place in you yourself and all around you. Everything is in constant flux." And he's right. Nothing stays the same. Not your feelings, not your circumstances, not even the people in your life. The anxiety we often feel comes from trying to hold on to things that are by nature temporary. We want the good moments to last forever. We fear losing what we have. We resist change, even when it's part of life. Here's a real example. Let's say you're going through a stressful time at work. It feels like it'll never end. But deep down, you know, this season will pass, just like every other one before it. Accepting impermanence doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding that all things, the good and the bad, will evolve. That thought alone can bring immense peace. When you stop fighting change, your mind softens. You stop clinging so tightly and you begin to flow. So how do you practice this? Start by reminding yourself, this moment is temporary. Say it during conflict, during joy, during stress, during calm. It helps you stay present without becoming attached. Here's your challenge. Reflect on one thing in your life that's changing. Instead of resisting it, try to accept it. Feel how much lighter that makes your mind. Because once you accept that nothing lasts forever, you can finally start living fully in the now. Let's move on to strategy 9. Make time for hobbies. Let's talk about something we often forget as adults. Doing things just because we love them. Not for money, not for productivity, not for results, just for the joy of it. I'm talking about hobbies, and yes, they matter more than you think. Epictetus once said, "Leisure without books is death, and burial for a living man." In other words, when we stop feeding our inner world, when we stop creating, exploring, playing, we start to feel mentally starved. So many of us are stuck in survival mode. Work, chores, responsibilities, and before we know it, days blur together with no color, no joy, no spark. But when you make time for a hobby, even just 20 minutes a day, you give your mind a break from overthinking. You shift from consuming to creating, from reacting to being. Let me give you an example. Say you love painting. You're not trying to sell your art or be the next Picasso. You're just expressing. You lose track of time, you breathe deeper, and your mind, it softens. That's not a luxury, that's therapy. Whatever your thing is, gardening, writing, cooking, building Lego cities, make time for it. Don't wait until you're done with everything else, because let's be honest, everything else never ends. Here's your challenge. Pick one hobby you've been neglecting. Block off a small window this week. No phone, no multitasking, and just do it. Not for performance, for presence. Your brain deserves beauty, curiosity, and play. And when you make space for that, overthinking takes a backseat. You'll feel more alive, more grounded, more you. All right, let's keep the momentum going. Ready for strategy 10, learn to say no. All right, this one might feel uncomfortable at first, but trust me, it's a game changer for your peace of mind. Learn to say no. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that they are difficult." And let's face it, for many of us, saying no is really hard. We don't want to disappoint people. We don't want to seem selfish. So we say yes to everything. Yes, I'll stay late. Yes, I'll take care of that. Yes, I'll squeeze that in. And just like that, our schedule is packed, our energy is drained, and our minds are overwhelmed. But here's the truth. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you're saying no to your priorities, your rest, your clarity. Let me give you a real-life example. Imagine it's Friday night. You've had a long week and all you want is to unwind. Then someone texts, "Hey, want to help with this last-minute project?" Your gut says no, but your mouth says, "Sure." And now your evening is gone. and your mental energy along with it. Stoicism reminds us to protect our time like a precious resource, because it is. So how do you start? Practice saying no with kindness and confidence. You can say, "Thanks for thinking of me, but I'm not able to take that on right now." Or, "I need to prioritize rest today, maybe next time." You don't owe long explanations, just honesty. So here's your challenge. Say no once this week to something that doesn't align with your energy or goals. And see how liberating that feels. Because when you stop saying yes to everything, you finally make room to say yes to yourself. Ready for strategy 11. Cultivate patience. Let's talk about a superpower most of us wish we had. Patience. In a world that's always rushing, instant messages, fast food, same-day delivery, waiting feels like torture. But according to Stoic wisdom, patience isn't weakness. It's strength under control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." Stay on guard. Life throws unexpected punches, and how we respond, especially in moments of delay or discomfort, says a lot about the strength of our mind. Here's a simple example. You're stuck in traffic, running late, frustration builds, you grip the steering wheel, your mind starts spiraling. Why is this happening? I'm going to be late. This always happens to me. But what if instead you use that moment to breathe, to remind yourself this delay doesn't define me, I control how I react? That's patience in action. Being patient doesn't mean being passive, Graf. It means choosing calm over chaos. It means allowing life to unfold, even when it's not on your schedule. So how do we cultivate it? Start small. Let someone go ahead of you in line, and instead of getting annoyed, observe your reaction. Wait 5 extra seconds before replying to a frustrating message. Practice stillness when your brain wants to rush. Over time, those micro moments build mental endurance. You become less reactive and more resilient. Here's your challenge. This week, notice one situation that tests your patience and lean into it. Not with tension, but with awareness. Ask yourself, what's the rush? And then breathe. You'll find clarity where there used to be stress, because the more patient you become, the less power the outside world has over your inner peace. Let's keep going. Strategy 12 is up next. Spend time in nature. Let's step away from the screens for a minute and into something a little more ancient and deeply healing. Nature. Seneca once said, "True happiness is peace of the soul." And sometimes, the fastest way to reconnect with that peace is to simply step outside. We spend so much of our lives indoors, under artificial lights, surrounded by noise, multitasking, scrolling, thinking, reacting. It's no wonder our minds feel cluttered and overwhelmed. But nature invites you to slow down. It doesn't rush, it doesn't demand, it just is, and reminds you that you can just be too. Here's a real-life example. You're stressed out, mentally drained. You take a walk in a quiet park, no phone, no music, just you and the trees. You feel the breeze on your skin, you hear birds chirping, you smell fresh grass or rain in the air, and suddenly you feel human again. Not a machine, not a to-do list, just a soul in a body, breathing. That's not just poetic, it's powerful. Studies show time in nature reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, and increases mental clarity. The Stoics didn't need science to know this. They lived in close relationship with the natural world, understanding its rhythm helped restore inner balance. So here's your challenge. This week, spend at least 20 minutes in nature. A walk in the park, sitting under a tree, watching clouds. No agenda, no productivity, just presence. Let the stillness of the world outside calm the chaos inside. And remember, peace isn't something you find, it's something you return to. And nature is the path that brings you back. Ready to keep going? Let's move into strategy 13. Take regular digital detoxes. Let's be honest, our devices are amazing. They connect us, inform us, entertain us, but they can also trap us. That's why strategy 13 is all about this. Taking regular digital detoxes. Marcus Aurelius said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." But in today's world, most of us do seek it through notifications, endless scrolling, and constant stimulation. We wake up and reach for our phones, we check emails while eating, we scroll before bed and wonder why our minds won't shut off. Here's the truth. You can't detox your mind if it's constantly plugged into noise. Let me give you a simple example. Try going one afternoon, just a few hours, without your phone. No social media, no email, no news. At first you might feel fidgety. You'll reach for your phone out of habit. You might even feel bored. But then something interesting happens. Your brain begins to settle. You notice things again, like the sound of your breath or the color of the sky. You feel present. That's your nervous system resetting. That's your attention coming back home. A digital detox doesn't have to mean a week in the mountains. It can be as simple as turning off notifications for a day, leaving your phone in another room while you work, spending the first 30 minutes of your morning unplugged. So here's your challenge. Pick a time this week to intentionally disconnect. Make space for real life, stillness, and silence. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your mind is turn everything off and simply be. Let's move on to strategy 14. Practice forgiveness. All right, this next one might not sound easy, but it's one of the most powerful ways to clear your mind. Forgiveness. Now, before you think this doesn't apply to me, pause. Because forgiveness isn't about letting someone else off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And when we hold on to resentment, replaying what someone said, what they did, what should have happened, we trap ourselves in a cycle of mental suffering. Here's the thing. Anger, bitterness, grudges, they take energy, mental energy, emotional energy, the kind you need to focus, to grow, to feel peace. Let me share a real-world example. Maybe someone betrayed your trust. It hurt. You've gone over the situation 100 times in your head. But no matter how much you think about it, it doesn't change the past. What it does change, your present. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means you're choosing to stop carrying the weight. You're choosing peace over pain. You're choosing to heal. So how do you start? It might be as simple as saying, "I don't condone what happened, but I release it now." Write it down. Say it out loud. Even if you're not fully ready, just starting the process can be freeing. And don't forget, forgiveness includes yourself too. Let go of past mistakes. Speak to yourself with compassion. You're allowed to move forward. So here's your challenge. Identify one person or one moment you've been holding in your heart and take one small step toward letting it go. Because when you clear that space, your mind finally breathes. Ready for strategy 15? Keep a personal journal. Let's talk about one of the most underrated tools for clearing your mind. Writing things down. Yep, journaling. Now, before you imagine a fancy leather notebook and poetic ramblings by candlelight, let's simplify. Journaling is just talking to yourself on paper. And it's one of the most powerful ways to slow down your thoughts and make sense of your inner world. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and Roman emperors, journaled every day. His private writings, later known as meditations, weren't meant for anyone else. They were his way of processing, reflecting, grounding. If it worked for him, it can work for us too. Here's why journaling matters. When thoughts stay in your head, they multiply. You ruminate, spiral, rehearse conversations you never had. But when you write, you externalize your thoughts. You separate emotion from fact. You see what's real and what's just noise. Here's a real-world moment. Let's say you had a tough conversation at work. You walk away overthinking it, replaying every word, every facial expression. Instead of holding all that in your mind, you sit down and write, "What happened? What did I feel? What can I learn from it?" Suddenly, things become clearer. You're not judging, you're observing. You're not spinning, you're sorting. So how do you start? Simple. Grab a notebook or open a notes app. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Write whatever's on your mind. No filters, no pressure. Some days it'll be deep. Other days it might just be, I'm tired. That's okay. It's all valid. Here's your challenge. Try journaling once this week, even just a few lines. Let your mind breathe through your pen, because clarity often begins when your thoughts leave your head and land on the page. Let's move into the final strategy. Strategy 16. Practice self-compassion. And here we are, the final strategy, and honestly, it might be the most important one of all. Practice self-compassion. Now, if you're someone who holds yourself to high standards, if you beat yourself up when you make mistakes, if your inner voice sounds more like a drill sergeant than a friend, this one's for you. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right, because often the harshest battles we fight are the ones we create in our own minds. Let me ask you something. If your best friend made a mistake, would you criticize them? Tell them they're a failure? Call them weak? Of course not. You'd probably say, it's okay, you're human, you're learning. So why don't we talk to ourselves the same way? Here's a real-life example. You miss a deadline. You instantly start thinking, I always mess things up, I'll never get it right. But what if instead you paused, took a breath, and said, that was tough, but I did my best with what I had today. Tomorrow's a new chance. That's not weakness. That's strength in kindness. That's what gives your mind space to reset instead of spiral. Self-compassion doesn't mean you stop growing or striving. It means you grow from a place of care, not self-punishment. So here's your challenge. The next time you mess up, fall behind, or feel overwhelmed, speak to yourself like you would someone you love. Because your mind doesn't need more judgment. It needs understanding. And when you build that kind of relationship with yourself, overthinking starts to lose its grip and peace begins to take its place. So, ready to wrap it all up together? Let's move into the conclusion. So there you have it. 16 simple, powerful strategies to detox your mind and stop overthinking, all rooted in timeless Stoic wisdom. And here's what I want you to remember. You don't need to master all 16 right away. This isn't a checklist. It's a journey. Even just one small shift, one strategy practiced consistently can create real change. Maybe for you, it's setting healthier boundaries. Maybe it's making space for stillness, or finally speaking to yourself with more kindness. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to start where you are, without pressure or perfection. Because that's what the Stoics taught, that peace isn't found in controlling everything, but in mastering how we respond. You already have what it takes. All the clarity, calm, and courage you're searching for, it's within you. These strategies are simply reminders, tools to help you return to your center again and again. So here's a gentle nudge. Choose one strategy that spoke to you today and begin just a little. You'll be amazed at how your mind responds when you give it what it truly needs. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If something in this video resonated, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What strategy will you try first? And if you found this helpful, feel free to give it a like or subscribe if you'd like more videos like this in the future. No pressure, just an open invitation to keep growing together. Until next time, take a deep breath, be gentle with your thoughts, and keep coming back to what matters. See you in the next one.